I've always said to myself that someday I'm going to put a big chalkboard. Maybe this would be a good wall to do it. And I'm going to have on here the list of the worst stories ever that I ever talked about throughout every episode of the show. You know, I've been doing this show for 7 years, and I have never ever came across the stories you're about to see. This student puts a teacher in a chokehold. Like that. He puts him in a chokehold. What happened next would leave the police involved and the student attacking others in the classroom. Warning, what you're about to hear is hard to watch. Here's Lauren Stockbroker.
Inside a Kearns High classroom Tuesday, a terrifying ordeal.
A teacher that's been put in danger, the students, even in that classroom, were in danger.
Unified Police Sergeant Melody Cutler saying it started when a 14-year-old student walked through the doors into class late, then got into an argument with his teacher.
So they were arguing, and then the teacher went and picked up his things and tried to escort him out of the room when he grabbed her and put her in a chokehold.
The teacher struggled under the student's grip.
And so, you know, this student's a big kid. He's about 5'10", 300 pounds.
Sergeant Cutler says a school administrator responded with a school resource officer close behind. And as the administrator tried to free the teacher, the student bit the administrator in the back of the head at least twice.
So we have the teacher that he put in a chokehold, the administrator that he was biting, and then during the scuffle as they were trying to get control of him, apparently his shoe came off.
Which the student then allegedly used to continue the attack.
He was able to pick up that shoe and break free from the other administrators and hit the officer across the face with the shoe.
The adults eventually got things under control, and while no one was seriously injured, the event itself extremely alarming.
Given that you have basically a full-on fight going on in this room full of other students.
Sergeant Cutler telling me tonight the administrator was treated for those bites. The teacher is recovering. Meanwhile, officers took that student to juvenile detention where he could face 2 felony charges of aggravated assault plus some misdemeanor charges. Dan.
Wow, very disturbing case there. Thanks a lot, Lauren.
Wow. Like I said, it's one of the worst stories ever that I've ever talked about. To ever talk about. Looking at the comments. So as a teacher myself, she probably wrote him up numerous times and let down by administrators. Called home to be cursed down. Now this sounds spot on to me. What teachers are expected to put up these days? It's beyond the norm. They don't get paid enough to begin with, and now there are far too many attacked by students and parents. It's ridiculous. In the mid-50s through the 60s, when I went to school, the teachers were given respect. My parents were handing out severe to deserve punishments. If I or many of my siblings had acted out, edit, I hope the teacher will recover completely. Recover completely, that the school will enforce stricter rules, especially about the proper student conduct and consequences. Those groups don't belong in the classroom or an educational place. And you wonder why there's teacher shortages. I mean, if we were to create a reenactment scenario right now of this, it would be with some common sense. It'd be like, excuse me, Tom. Tom, you're late. He'd be like, I was not late. I mean, like, I was not late. I came in like 5 seconds late. He'd be like, no, you went in 1 minute late. No, it was 5 seconds. 1 minute. 5 minutes. It should have 2 minutes. Get off me. And people coming in, get over. You get over me. Ow, my back. And then all of a sudden be like, oh, shoot. I was 5 seconds late. The police would get involved saying, what's going on in here? Get over it. You ain't gonna get. Here's one went up. That would lead in the end of it. And what do we learn today, boys and girls? You need to listen to the adults. Listen to your teacher. If you don't listen to your teacher, that's what can happen to you. One guy was arrested for assault and battery. In the 60s and 70s, if we misbehaved, the teacher would discipline us, and when we got home, my father would again discipline us. That happened to me once, never again. A well-behaved kid. Hire an attorney. First file first conversation. Sue parents. School. Pray for rehabilitation. Special training need for perverts in the chokehold. Charge the parents. Parents are responsible for their children. It's inexcusable. Agreed. That's the common sense. I mean, if we don't hold parents responsible, like, what's going on in the home? The parents teaching these kids how to defend themselves, stand up for themselves. You don't need to be hitting the teacher. You never talk to your teacher like that or ever put your hands on a teacher in anger. You never do. That's assault and battery, and you can very much go to jail or juvie. And this story would be somewhere along this chalkboard. Depending on how much room there would be. Alright. If you ever see the Rockefeller lights happening, you may have seen some cops there. Coming up, there's a major security operation underway to prevent any destruction of the Rockefeller Center. But there may be some protests on the way. We'll tell you. Stay with us. Did you attend that Christmas tree lighting in Rockefeller Center? If you did, you may have seen some police presence there. That's because the police are preparing for all these protests that are happening. Look, all we want for Christmas is peace on earth and goodwill towards men. That's all we wanted. We don't need any protests happening, any more stuff that's going on. All we want is peace on earth and goodwill towards men. That's all we need. But what's going on in Rockefeller Center? Here's Emma Cagliano.
Major security operation is underway today to prevent any disruptions at the Rockefeller Center tree lighting ceremony. NYPD is warning of a heightened risk from a variety of extremists. Authorities are taking the threat seriously after pro-Palestine protesters poured fake blood over their bodies and glued themselves to the street at last week's nationally televised Macy's Thanksgiving parade. Police are determined that the Christmas tree lighting here in New York goes smoothly tonight. There will be a heavy NYPD presence, and NYPD drones are already hovering over the area.
There's a tethered drone on top of the truck, which goes about 200 feet up in the air.
And there are heartbreaking developments about the two youngest hostages who have captured the world's attention. A chilling announcement from Hamas claims that the 10-month-old baby hostage and his 4-year-old brother, known as the Reds for their bright red hair, are dead along with their mom, seen protecting them in this heart-wrenching video. The distressing claim was posted on a Hamas social media channel, which said the terror group announces the killing of 3 Zionist detainees as a result of a previous Zionist bombing. The Israel Defense Forces says the IDF is assessing the accuracy of the information. The barbarism and cruelty of Hamas is on full display to the world. The claim is triggering a storm of social media posts. My heart is broken for them, says one. This hits me extra hard. Their distraught cousin appeared on CBS Mornings.
I'm very afraid.
Her family is in our thoughts, in the world's thoughts.
And famed supermodel Gigi Hadid is apologizing for a social media post claiming Israel is the only country in the world that keeps children as prisoners of war. She singled out this youth who was first taken into custody in 2015 when he was 13. And here's how he looks today. Far from being a prisoner of war, he was jailed for attempted murder after a vicious knife attack aimed at a Jewish child. The 28-year-old model, who is of Palestinian descent, admitted, "I shared something that I did not fact-check." Megyn Kelly is taking Gigi Hadid and her modeling agency, IMG, to task.
There's nothing you can say to get you fired if you are bankable and you actually make people money with your face.
And this was the chaotic scene today as the latest group of hostages was released.
Wow. Everyone's just getting off topic. But people have to be taking this very seriously. And so, we'll never know. Okay, I gotta, well, I want to go to break straight away. Alright. There's a restaurant, 6 years ago, if you ever seen a restaurant that would serve chicken as its own from Popeyes, this would be it. Take a look.
Is this restaurant actually serving fast food chicken from Popeyes and passing it off as its own? The restaurant found itself in hot water after a customer ordered fried chicken at the Sweet Dixie Kitchen in Long Beach, California, and saw something very strange. He posted his discovery on Yelp. The chicken they use is from Popeyes. Before my friends and I got seated, we saw them quickly bring in 2 large boxes of Popeyes to the kitchen. Turns out the guy was right.
Do you think this restaurant owner did anything wrong? Yes!
Restaurant owner Kim Sanchez is fessing up.
I love it. I can stand behind it. I can proudly say that this is the best product I feel for this dish.
She acknowledged that every day she walks 3 blocks to the local Popeyes to buy the chicken and resells it in her restaurant.
The manager's like, hey, you need your chicken? And I'm like, yes, I do.
The chicken is reheated in her oven. On the menu, the meal was sold as Pop's Chicken and Waffles.
We've never tried to hide it, which is why I walked through the front door with it. When people order it, we tell them it's not on my menu as Popeye's chicken because I can't get the approval from Popeyes.
Kim says 95% of her food is homemade, so she doesn't understand the big flat. This customer agrees. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
And I love me a common sense alert. I love me some common sense. I'm guessing that's one restaurant that does not know how to cook a fucking chicken. Go to the fucking grocery store. Get yourself an Instacart. Go cook a chicken. If you don't know, you've got talented staff in there that will teach you how to cook a damn chicken. Go to the store. Get a chicken. Debone it. You know what time? Get chicken sections. Get breast, thighs, wings. Get chicken. Cook it. Get back that 5%. Make it 100% homemade. Make it 100%. Just go to the grocery store. Just don't go to freaking Popeyes and freaking steal their shit and say, well, it's mine now, motherfucker. It's not right. You can't be taking someone else's crap without permission. You never wanted to do that. And if you did, you'd probably be jumped. If you did get jumped, I said we won't even be here. Alright, still ahead, we're gonna take you to Arizona. We're going to take you to Arizona where there are hidden cameras. Where there are some hidden cameras at casinos to where they're gambling. And coming up next, what steps between capitalism and loneliness? And why is the media getting it all wrong? John Stossel and some scaremongers. Stay with us. Are you lonely? There's a now new term called the loneliness epidemic. It's a term used to describe the high prevalence of loneliness in the United States. According to Lifespan, 1 in 2 people in the United States report experiencing loneliness before the COVID-19 pandemic. Some surveys indicate that 60% of Americans regularly feel lonely. The loneliness epidemic is especially affecting younger people, with almost 80% of the people aged 20 to 24 feeling lonely. It's an epidemic of loneliness. But did you know there's a difference between loneliness and capitalism? I mean, what do people have against capitalism? Certain life events or experiences make you feel alone, such as experiencing bereavement, going through a relationship breakup, retirement, changing jobs, starting at college or university, experiencing mental health problems, becoming a parent, and moving to a new area. Research suggests that some people are more vulnerable to loneliness than others. You have no friends or family, you're estranged, you have experienced sexual or physical abuse, experienced discrimination, shielding because university or serious illness from the pandemic, you don't have much money for certain social activities, you're excluded from social activities because of mobility problems. You belong to a minority group. If that's you, then we gotta fix it. How can you manage loneliness? We're gonna help you out with some tips about how to manage this loneliness. Learn about being comfortable in your own company. Think about yourself and what self-care means to you. Try to open up to people you know. It can't be an old friend. Like, if you never talked to your old friend from school, maybe you should talk to your old friend from school. Take it slow. Make new connections. And try not to compare yourself to others. And always look after yourself and try taking therapies. These tips do take time. But have you ever noticed the difference between loneliness, capitalism, and loneliness? I mean, the difference between capitalism and loneliness is just, according to psychology today, loneliness is a social epidemic that's connected to the history of capitalism and individualism. The Capital Institute argues that the freedom of choice makes people selfish and isolated. The crisis of capitalism say that it's exploitive, it annihilates people, alienates people, unstable, unsuitable, creates economic inequality, commodifies people, is anti-democratic, erodes human rights, etc. The crisis has went on before and probably during the pandemic. But the question is, will it ever stop or will it continue? Here's John Stossel.
Mass loneliness crisis going on.
Are you lonely? You must be, because headline after headline says loneliness is everywhere in America.
There's a mass loneliness crisis going on.
Loneliness is an epidemic.
We are absolutely in a loneliness crisis.
As usual, the media are just wrong. Loneliness isn't getting worse. Nothing to back it up?
Well, yes, there is an epidemic of headlines saying that there is a loneliness epidemic, but there's no empirical data that actually shows that we feel more lonely now than we did in the past.
In his new book, Johan Norberg explains that when researchers compare people with previous generations at the same stage of life, they don't find evidence of increased loneliness.
Which is interesting, because I would also think that it's less of a stigma to tell people that you feel lonely nowadays.
But more people live alone now. I would think that would make more people lonelier.
But the interesting thing, and this is what they never tell you in the reports, is that people who live alone and spend less time surrounded by other people are also more happy with those relationships.
Not only that, but when people around the world are asked, Do you have relatives or friends you can count on to help you? People in countries where more people live alone rarely say no. But in places like India and China, where I would think they have big families to count on, many more say they have no more.
It's the complete opposite of what people expect. In traditional and less market-based societies, between 20 to 30 to 40% say they have no one to count on if they need help. Whereas in the richest and most individualist societies, it's in the low single digits.
It's the opposite of what the scaremongers tell us, which is that capitalism makes us feel lonely and empty inside.
One of the huge sources of loneliness is capitalism.
Capitalist values of ruthless greed and competition.
The material incentives of capitalists isolate us from nature, each other, and ourselves. It's a miracle we aren't even lonelier.
I understand why those charlatans get an audience, because yeah, at times we all feel lonely and life and relationships are hard.
But Norberg's new book points out the many ways capitalism makes life better, including making people less lonely.
Every poll we're looking at shows that people say that they're less lonely in the most market-oriented societies.
The Human Freedom Index ranks how free and market-oriented societies are. Not only are people less lonely in these capitalist countries, but
if you increase freedom by 1 point, you reduce loneliness levels by 6 percentage points.
Under capitalism, people compete. Sounds divisive. Sounds like it would pull us apart.
Feudalism, communism, fascism, that's divisive. That's all based on getting resources by taking them from somebody else. What capitalism does is that it forces us to think about, what do the other guy want?
To sell someone anything, you have to please them.
The most important aspect of capitalism is cooperation. And that's why you constantly hear every time you buy something this double thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You say thank you, and they thank you.
Thank you.
It's weird, you both say thank you. You both feel you won.
I'm brought up with the idea that I should say thank you when somebody has done me a service. But in the market economy, we do each other services constantly. That's how we get richer. No deal ever happens unless both parties think that they benefit more from doing that.
And here's another twist to that. You argue capitalism makes us generous?
It sounds surprising, and this surprised the researchers as well. For many years, lots of researchers around the world have been looking at how generous are people when they're playing different economic games.
You're not allowed to communicate what you're thinking, talk about the decision you're making until you make it.
There are many real-life tests of that. This YouTube channel demonstrated a common experiment. Here the host gives people $20.
You can divide this between yourself and a stranger in any way you like, but the only condition is the other person has to accept the offer.
If he refuses it,
then you get nothing.
Then I get nothing.
Then nobody gets anything.
Then it's game over. So you have to offer something to the other person.
This man offers to give away 8 of the $20.
$8?
$8.
And the 12 is yours to keep?
This man gave the woman half.
So you got $10 here. Is that
Got
your offer?
$10, yeah.
Do you accept Sean's offer of $10?
I do accept Sean's offer.
Researchers have now done this test all over the world. And surprise again.
People are most generous in capitalist societies, in places where people have more of buying and selling in their everyday lives. There are even studies in Ethiopia among 53 different groups trying to see who is most generous in a transaction, in an economic game. And it shows you that the closer people live to marketplaces, the more generous they are. So if they constantly buy and sell and negotiate, they begin to take other people's interests into consideration. That's what markets do. They do affect our character, but not in this way that the critics say that it makes us more divisive and aggressive and neglect the interests of others. It makes us more generous.
In other words, capitalism doesn't just make people richer, it makes us nicer. Thanks for watching this video. If you're feeling
That's how it is. I mean, everyone's lonely, everyone's not lonely. It all depends how you look at it. That reminds me of a Tracy Lawrence song, but I can't play it because I could get copyrighted. Alright. Let's move on now. Coming up, a story that would involve hidden cameras and a casino. You are going to be the first to see hidden camera footage of when some people decide to go gambling and create politics at the same time. Tom Gerald has those hidden camera footages. Stay with us. Now a story about bribes, lies, and videotape. Dude, would you take a bribe? Would you take would you take a bribe from a politician? But what you may not, imagine this. You're sitting there, you're taking a bribe in an Arizona casino. And you realize you want to take a bribe. But you didn't know there was a hidden camera there, did you? You were about to see those hidden camera footage, and you will also meet some politicians who did not know who was on hidden camera. We're going to take an Arizona where gambling and politicians bet on politics. Here's Tom Joe.
Arizona, deserts and mountains in a land where time almost appears to stand still. This is the youngest state in the lower 48 and one of the fastest growing. The population here has quadrupled since World War II. It's a place where progress coexists with tradition and where things are not always as they seem. The dome of the state capitol is shiny and proud, sheathed in copper dug from Arizona's mines and hammered into shape by local craftsmen. But the people of the state are still coming to grips with a deep political tarnish beneath that dome. It wasn't bad enough that a governor was impeached in this chamber 3 years ago, or that both of the state's senators were members of the so-called Keating Five. Now the scandal is right here in the Arizona legislature. The state's motto is God enriches, but for some of Arizona's legislators, that wasn't enough.
100 is 10,000.
8 legislators were caught up in a videotape bribery sting that wrecked careers, ruined reputations, and revealed the raw ugliness of greed, all in living color. This is freshman state representative Sue Levy. This is 3-term representative Bobby Raymond.
I understand where I'm coming from. I don't give a about issues. There is not an issue in this world that I give okay, I do deals.
Right. That's right.
I mean, I do deals.
I'm the one.
Bobby Raymond's latest deal is with a prosecutor. He's pleaded guilty to 5 felonies, each documented on tape.
So you got a camera in your tape all
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
And you got those people on TV.
No, you're on camera. No, there's 50. Hold on a second.
This was not a sting run by the FBI or another high-powered federal agency. It was put together, designed, and run on a first-time basis by a local police department and a brand-new county prosecutor.
This is bribery. I mean, it's bribery.
Richard Bromley is the prosecutor for Maricopa County, which includes Phoenix. A Vietnam veteran whose legs were shattered by an enemy landmine, he ran for office on a clean government platform. But he says he was shocked when a routine gambling investigation turned up evidence that lawmakers' votes were for sale.
You know, this state, Arizona, did not need this type of publicity again. And you know it's going to create some problems, but you just don't stand for it. And that's my job, and you go forward.
I just drew upon every wise guy resource that I had used in my actual life.
This man was the key to the investigation, the bait and the trap all in one.
I'd been to prison. Now here I was working for the county attorney as an agent consultant.
Joe Stadino, a 3-time loser with a winning smile. He agreed to talk to 2020 with his lawyer present. Stadino is a convicted felon who had been recommended to local authorities by the FBI after a successful federal sting operation in Nevada. That sting netted $10.5 million in drug money. In Arizona, the issue was whether to legalize casino gambling. Word was out that some legislators might be willing to sell votes on the issue. To find out, prosecutors had Stadino create a role. He became a gangster known as Tony Vincent.
I was as mafioso Tony as you could get. Word spread that Tony Vincent was in town and had a ton of money, and if you wanted to commit your vote and your influence to Tony, why, just go see Tony and talk to him.
And talk to him they did. Here's Carolyn Walker, Majority Whip of the Arizona Senate.
10,000 was given me as a financial aid.
That's your comfort level?
Actually, I'd really rather have 15 to 10 to give me a difference.
You want 10 or 15?
I like 15.
That'll straighten you out.
That'll straighten me out.
And you're committed to me. I have your support.
I was committed to you regardless.
Are you committed to me?
I said I was committed to you regardless.
Are you committed to me?
Yes, I am.
Do I have your support?
You do with me.
Carolyn Walker is on tape accepting a total of $25,880.
I ran out of business.
She's under indictment for 9 felonies. Her attorney says these tapes don't tell the whole story.
She denies emphatically that she committed any crime. She took the money. She needed that to pay off debts. She took the money because he gave it to her, and it was a gift to her. But she did not sell her vote.
Was enough money shown to her with her background that she would have been impressed by it, persuaded by it, as far as this is a substantial amount of money?
No question about that. They gave this fellow Stadino thousands and thousands of dollars, and he would take out a wad of bills, I think, that would even make your eyes open up, Tom.
You know, they say that because you have put so much money in front of them, they couldn't resist it.
Right.
That's a lousy argument. That's a lousy argument. I don't care what should be brought before you. You should not sit there and sell your vote for a special interest group.
The money never came out till they asked for it. And Tom, God forgive me for telling the truth, but I was just surprised I didn't have to put a revolving door on the office to allow easier access. I even said on one tape to someone, I said, if this continues, I'm going to have to put a revolving door on the office with a teller window.
One by one, like flies to a spider's web, legislators were lured here to an ordinary-looking office building across town from the state capitol. Up there in Suite 340, they got the Joe Stadino alias Tony Vincent treatment. What do you need? What do you want? What can I do for you? How much will it take? Slip back for a moment into the role of Tony Vincent.
Yo.
Put me in the role of Tom Legislator coming in. Tell me how you would talk to me for a second about legalized gambling, and you want my support.
Well, Tom, I guess you've talked with my lobbyists and you understand what we're trying to do here. The idea here is that we want to get casinos in the state of Arizona. Now, my associates and I, we got our eye on 7 locations. We want to put 3 in Phoenix, 1 in Tucson, 1 in Sedona. If I spend $10 million and just get 1 joint open in Yuma, I'll be tickled to death. If it costs me $100 million, I don't care, because I'll make my money back the first year. You understand? Yeah. That's what we're all about.
Every persuasive word of the sting and every incriminating action went on tape.
We would have to have it is, and we could take there's 55,000.
The local authorities bought an arsenal of electronic equipment to document their case. The cameras were easily hidden.
That's good. Perfect.
The lens opening on this camera is tiny. Joe Hollenbeck watches over this equipment for the Phoenix Police Department.
Where is the audio? Is it from a wire worn by your informant?
Not necessarily. You can have almost the same situation. The microphone can be concealed anywhere in carpeting, in the roof, or anywhere.
So when someone comes into a room and says, is there a camera here? With today's technology, it's virtually impossible to say there's not if you want to hide one, isn't it?
That's correct.
Put it in your clothing, put it in a bag, put it in a potted plant, put it in your shoe, you could put it in your, they're wearing them now, football helmets.
Right.
There's no end to where the little peeping eye can be.
That's true.
True, even in this hotel room. In a meeting with 3 of his targets, Tony decides to show them they're safe, that he's not wearing a wire.
The microphone is actually hidden in the furniture.
I consistently was the wise guy. And I stayed the same. I was consistently a tinkered. Tony was a guy that would step outside the law. There was no mistake about it. In fact, one of the newspaper articles that came out for California stated that Stadino's performance was equal to a De Niro or Pacino. I like that article. 8 people walked. 8 legislators beat it out the door. See, that's an interesting thing that no one has talked about. So there's 8 that took the money and 8 that didn't. It's kind of a push.
So not everyone went for it.
No, sir.
This man didn't go for it. In fact, he went to the law instead. Jack Jewett is a member of the House from Tucson.
I first laid eyes on the now infamous Tony Vincent here at the restaurant.
The two of them had lunch with one of Jewett's colleagues.
Jack, this is Tony Vincent. Nice to meet you. What really tipped me that something is fundamentally wrong here was at the end of the luncheon when he flashed wads of $100 bills.
Did he make a cash offer to you in the restaurant?
He did not make an offer, but I took my concerns the next morning via phone call to then Attorney General Bob Corbin.
I wish I'd never met Tony Vincent. I wish I would have walked that money back into his office. And I wish I would have walked right back down to the Attorney General's office and turned him in.
Instead, Sue Levy went to jail. She accepted over $24,000 in a series of meetings with Tony that started innocently enough.
She accepted a legal contribution of $220. And Tony would have bet the store that Sue Levy would not be back. And within approximately 90 days, Sue Levy reached out for Tony and asked for $10,000 and offered to not only vote yes for legalized gaming, but to co-sponsor the bill.
The trap is sprung, but this investigation still troubles Rick Romley. In a reflective moment at his home late one night, we talked about that.
The definite impression that I got out of being with this case for so long, it was kind of a way of doing business for some of these. It was sort of an attitude. Sometimes I even wondered if they knew what they were doing was wrong.
Who were the victims of that case?
All of us. All of us. Really, the entire community. Not just in the direct ways that we can see through the passage of laws, but that breach of faith. And that's incalculable.
Should people be shocked or surprised by this exchange of money, or is this the way of doing business, and does it still go on today in the legislature of Arizona?
I think it still goes on, but it probably doesn't go on with the cash. There was a reference made in the tapes about that we were unsophisticated whores. I think the sophisticated ones are still out there doing it. One of the typical lines down there is, it's all right to do it. If you get caught, you put the Twinkies back.
Put the Twinkies back.
Put the Twinkies back.
And watch out for hidden cameras.
Absolutely.
What's happened since this whole...
Barbara, all 8 are out of the legislature. 7 of the 8 have pled guilty. Only Carolyn Walker plans to go to trial and test in court.
Well, I gather she says that she was going to support Tony Vincent anyway, therefore she's not responsible?
Right. That's her claim, is to justify why she took the money. In fact, of all of these people, they felt they weren't really doing anything all that illegal. They thought it was sort of like business as usual for legislators to take this money, until they saw themselves on videotape, and that's when they realized...
They said, gee, maybe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, politics as usual,
Yeah.
huh? Sweet story, thanks.
What a great story. Alright, coming up, a story all about stuttering. John Stossel is going to come back with a story all about stuttering and what you can do to prevent it. Please stay with us. Now a story that's all about what you fear most. Stuttering. We all try to hide stuttering. But can we just avoid it? We're about to take you to some speech therapists and some experimenters who can overcome stuttering and find out ways to do it. And one of those is on their own. John Stossel has a story about stuttering.
Just like with the guy with Super J for us, and just saying like this guy over here just saying like it was.
Hayes says this was his most horrible day ever. We stutterers usually want to hide our blocking because we know when we stutter.
I bet I'm making the listener very uncomfortable.
This woman is a member of the National Stuttering Project.
Welcome. Welcome.
It's a group of stutterers who get together to talk about stuttering.
My husband or my girlfriends, my parents make phone calls for me.
I got married a couple years ago. You know, about 200 people. There was a judge doing the ceremony. You know, he's out there. He says, "Now repeat after me." I said, "It might be tough."
Much of the talk is about avoiding difficult words.
If I'm supposed to be telling people where I come from or something, and I can't say Ireland, I always say something like I come from the land of the shamrocks or something like that.
Just talking about stuttering has helped some of these people speak better.
I know that, like I've always wanted to drink lemonade, and I've always had Coke or something else to have. I like lemonade. I still have problems, but now it's getting lemonade.
Most stutterers have tried many therapies without success.
I've had all kinds of treatments for my stuttering. Some places said, speak more slowly. One guy said, speak faster. A number of people said you should breathe differently. One acupuncturist said he could cure me. A hypnotist said that too. But nothing helped me until I got to this place, the Communications Research Institute in Roanoke, Virginia.
The Institute teaches people to become aware of exactly how we should produce speech. There are vocal cords in the throat. Air from the lungs vibrates them smoothly to produce voice. But when a stutterer blocks, the vocal cords tense and lock up. You can see it watching speech on an oscilloscope. Normal speech looks about like this. Each sound begins gently. A stutterer's speech, even when we're not blocking, begins more abruptly. The treatment here is what psychologists call behavior modification. Simply reteach people how to speak without the abrupt starts. To do that, they slow us down to 2 seconds per syllable. Then, for 8 hours a day, everyone sits in little rooms talking to this box. A computer in the box rewards smooth speech by giving you this green light.
You become a slave to the green light. You spend hours in this room trying to keep it on. The idea is that as long as I make each sound gently, the green light stays on. But if I hit a sound too hard, like 2020, the light goes out.
After 2 weeks in these tiny rooms moaning at the machine, you graduate to more fearful territory. Phone calls.
What time do you close? What are your hours, please?
Before we see the results of the therapy, let's meet the students.
You have a pretty severe problem.
Yeah, because, but sometimes it's better, sometimes it's...
18-year-old Robert is the worst stutterer in the group. His stutters sometimes last half a minute, and as with many severe stutterers, when he blocks, his whole body tenses up. David's stuttering pattern is to go until he gets the word out.
Do people ever just think that you're dumb?
I would assume so, yes. And that what bothers me the most of all. I really hate that.
Butch says in school, other children would mock him.
I thought I was different. I was weird, you know? What do you hope to get out of this course? I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. Television broadcaster? Right. You think you will be? Yep. I have strong plans.
Okay, but one step at a time. The next challenge is what's called transfer. The therapist takes you to a local shopping center. Can you transfer what you've learned to the real world?
Where's the bank?
The bank?
Yes. Where's the bank?
It's downstairs, right across from Penny's.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
May I have a large diet, please? How did you feel when you were suddenly asking people where the bank is and ordering Pepsi?
Like I wanted to just talk and not stop. Because
when you can say what you want, it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Richard Seacrest is feeling pretty good too. 2 weeks before, he told me he was anxious about dating. He'd asked one woman out and she said
that I would not go out with a stuttering fool.
2 weeks later.
Now you're going over to the college to talk to women?
That's the difference.
You go up to complete strangers and just talk to them?
That is correct. I never could do that before. So far, I have met about 80-some plus girls here.
And remember Butch, who wanted to go on TV?
Now you think you could become a sportscaster?
This is Howard Cosell, live from ringside. 2 power punchers, one with style and grace, one with strength and skill.
Maybe someday he'll interview Lester Hayes. His speech is better now too.
I got to a point where I was just getting licked by it, and I just couldn't control it.
Hayes took the Hollins course after his Super Bowl trauma.
It can be controlled.
Not that it works for everyone. Remember Robert? The therapy did little for him. Hollins claims he's the exception, and they have a survey that proves it.
Even 2 years later, 75% say they're satisfied with their speech.
That's right.
And that's better than other programs.
As near as we can tell.
Would you let us go through your files and call the people ourselves?
Sure. We have no problems with that.
Other speech therapists told us the Institute exaggerates its success rate. So we called 75 graduates. Sure enough, most are now satisfied with their speech. Still, some speech therapists, like Dr. Joseph Sheehan of UCLA, are skeptical. He says that if therapy deals only with the stutterer's speech and ignores his feelings, the stuttering will eventually return. He believes in a more psychological approach.
The handicap of stuttering is like an iceberg, that most of it is beneath the surface. It's all the fear and guilt and shame underneath that you have to deal with. And that's what the stutterer must overcome in therapy.
In addition to teaching them new speech techniques, Sheehan tells his patients, go ahead and stutter. Accept the fact that you are a stutterer. Then you'll fear it less and speak better.
So when I went, I just decided that I'm just going to stutter, and I did. And I felt terrific.
Before coming here, Peter Kupferman had been to therapist after therapist, searching for perfect speech. Their methods didn't work.
Like the plague. The key words to this therapy, I would say, are honesty and courage. Honesty in revealing yourself as a stutterer, and courage to go ahead and speak in situations that you fear you might stutter in, and stutter anyway. What about children just starting to stutter? How can you parents help them avoid a lifelong problem? The experts told us the most important thing is to recognize the stutter when it first appears. Now, all children stumble over words sometimes. That's normal. It's only a stutter when it happens unusually often or when it happens with pressure. Another warning sign is if your child avoids certain words.
Justin was 3.5 years old when suddenly he started to stutter.
I'd say within a week, he was very hard to understand.
Mama beat me.
Not yet in school, Justin's been in private speech therapy for 4 months. Experts agree that nearly all children who receive proper treatment soon after the problem begins recover completely.
Around his eyes.
But when young stutterers don't receive therapy soon enough, it can affect their personalities.
It makes her rebellious. And she has told me, Mother, why did God make me like this? I don't want to be like this.
When Gloria began stuttering at 4, her parents could hardly understand her. Today she gets speech therapy in a public school program in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
This is a car.
Through games, they learn new ways to speak, and they also learn to deal with their feelings about stuttering. Gloria had been teased that if she really wanted to, she could stop stuttering.
I can help it. And I told her I couldn't. And then she kept on saying I could help it.
How did you feel when she said that?
Many experts told us good speech therapists for stutterers are hard to find, in private practice or in schools. So if your child stutters, it'll take some digging to find good help. The experts told us, get a second opinion to make sure it really is stuttering. And make sure the therapist specializes in stuttering. not just in speech disorders in general. When the therapy mix is right,
It's just amazing how much the speech therapy has done for her over the 3 years. She's just so outgoing, and she just seems like she's such a happy child now because of that.
What about the little boy we just saw, John? Is he better too?
Justin, yes, we looked for him and found him in Idaho and went back to see him just last week.
Justin, would you please read number 5 for us right now?
Justin Hollis is now in the 6th grade. He's come a long way since we first met him.
We rode out as far as the Red Bayou.
His stuttering is totally under control. His parents say getting therapy young made the difference.
I wanted to give Justin every opportunity that we could. When we took Justin in for therapy, he played lots of games, which we had to continue at home and practice for a while until it almost became second nature.
That kind of game therapy clearly worked. Today, Justin's only memories of that time are happy ones.
We play a game, and then when I go out, I get a little toy.
That's nice. He's another example, along with you, of successful dealing with it. I don't think of you, though, as a stutterer. If you stuttered badly, and I take your word for it, why did you go into television?
I stuttered pretty badly. I would talk like this a lot of the time. That stutter became real once I started. I didn't intend to go on the air. I came into television as a researcher, and when I first went on the air, I had lots of trouble and was about to quit, and that's when I found that clinic in Virginia that helped me. But this still makes me nervous, talking to you in front of all these people.
Well, you've overcome it, though. I think it's great. Thank you, John.
That's terrific.
Thank you, Barbara.
Next time you have a fear, just overcome your fear. That way you can be the best there is, that you can be the best and not have loss of communications. That's what stutterers do. Try to overcome it and try to find some therapy to help. Speech therapy would help, especially with autism. We'll be right back. When we go to a sports game, we often see these little mascots that get us to cheer. What if you were to see two mascots fighting over the girlfriend or boyfriend? Well, in tonight's Bible break, it's all about the mascot fights. This fight is between the duck and the cougar. It's what we call the mascot beatdown. This clip was also on World's Dumbest, and we'll show you that again. We'll show you the clip from the World's Dumbest in just a minute. Actually, we're not going to do that because they could copyright me. But I'm going to do this Bob Saget style. If you've seen America's Funniest Videos, I'm going to do this Bob Saget style. So I'm going to mute the video, and then with my voice from these two, you're going to know. You'll hear. So just listen. Hey, what you want? Hey, stop touching me. Stop touching me. Get off me. Hey, get on me. Hey, whoa. Get on, go on. Continue on. Hey, stop punching me, man. Stop punching me. Hey, that's enough. Break it up. Hey, stop it now. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Let's get on with it. Hey, let's push up. Good thing on my boo. Elbow slam. Yeah, I'm the best. Hey, you gonna get your ass kicked. Hey. Go, you get your ass kicked. Come on, what you gonna do? I'll take his mother duck penis, man. Hey, get on me, man. Get on me. We always beat down the mascot. You stop it right now. Hey. Get over there. Get here, Cole. Who's the number one mascot now, man? Give me 5. You see what I mean? Now let's watch the whole clip again. You see what I mean? That's Bob Saget. That's the Bob Saget style. Alright. Here's a question for you. You ever play a game of rock, paper, balls? It's an old style of rock, paper, scissors. This was inspired by Tosh.0.
Rock, paper, balls. Go. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Before we continue playing this, the game this is the way the game works out. These two have pillowcases on top of their heads, and it's like the old game rock, paper, scissors. But when paper cuts rock, if you lose the game, you get hit in the balls. So you go rock, paper, scissors, and let's say paper cuts rock. I would punch the person in the balls. But if that person says paper and I go rock covers paper, and then while blindfolded, right, my battery, man. But I'm not going to have to play this clip, but I am going to show you one from World's Dumbest.
Excited guy. These excited guys have created a fun new twist on a classic game.
This is rock, paper, balls, backwards tag, boys. Oh my god.
You know, very rarely does something good follow a pillowcase being put over your head.
It's rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Except blindfolded. And when you lose...
Okay, here's the game. I'm gonna blindfold you and touch your balls, and then I'm gonna touch your balls, and then I'm gonna touch your balls, and that's the game.
Whatever happened to a good old-fashioned circle jerk?
They're down to 2 players.
Paper, scissors.
Ryan cuts paper with scissors.
For the love of God, boys, take a dive.
And Jared has to pay the price.
No.
Leaving Ryan to be crowned the champion.
Is there any possibility they're going to come out with a home version of rock, paper, balls anytime soon? I'd love to play it with my wife and kids.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Well, this was an AMV. They probably won 20 grand anyway. That's it for Give and Break Wednesday going to Thursday. We'll see you again for Throwback Thursday. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, unless you want your congressman for me to stay here and log to the cleanup crew, have a good night.